Hello, wonderful interpreters. So I'm here to talk about the continuing education problem that we have as interpreters and how many people are aware of that and why many of us could lose our certification if we don't have those continuing education credits and what LNI is doing about it. So without any more talk, I want to just share the email that I got from LNI. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be minimizing this thing a little bit right here so I could play with this a little bit and show you that email and at the same time be able to talk to you. So let's minimize this a little bit as much as we can and boom. Alrighty. So this is the email that most of you or pretty much all of you that contract with LNI had received this last Thursday, right? So I'm gonna float on top a little bit so I don't get lost in the view. Okay, so here we go. So it says right here, interpretation or interpreter certification update. In early February, LNI will be sending a letter to all the interpreters in our system who may not be DSHS certified or authorized after April 6, 2019, when the certification deadline comes. And please see the attached letter. Now, what is that letter? I do have the letter right here, so let's just jump to it real quick, so I don't want to make this video super long right here. So it's going to open up in a minute, right here, boom. So it says, Dear interpreter, thank you for providing language interpreter services for injured workers, for workers covered by the Department of Labor and Industries. We appreciate your help. And then it says, for many interpreters, certification or authorization through the Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, will expire in April 6. LNI cannot pay you for services delivered after your certification authorization from DSHS expires or during any period when your certification has lapsed. If your certification is expiring, what you need to do is renew your certification by sending documentation to DSHS of your continuing education, and they provide the email right here. And then if your authorization is not going to be renewed because you have not met all the requirements, you will need to retake the oral and written tests for your languages through DSHS, okay? So you will have to retest, and DSHS is working on more testing slots and all that, even though they're not guaranteed. So what is the problem with this? Why are so many interpreters troubled by this? Well, for starters, I do have a few questions and concerns from interpreters that they have been talking to me about it. And one of the concerns that I heard was, well, I wasn't notified of the continuing education changes when they first came about, even though this has been going on since 2015, and even though there's been plenty of information about it, but I understand the concern that many people were not informed. Okay, so some people are saying that I don't usually visit the website, and I don't have any reason to go there and see what's going on. And fair enough, we're very busy as interpreters. We don't have time to be checking on time online all the time, all of these things. And then there is one interpreter that I saw today, or earlier today. It's actually 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning here, but earlier yesterday, I would say, I saw this interpreter, and he was telling me like, the thing is, I retested, and I'm waiting for my provider number because I didn't want to do the continuing education credits. I didn't have time for that, so I just retested and passed the test. But then LNI hasn't processed my provider number. They're working on a backlog, and so it's just taking longer than usual. And then another interpreter was telling me like, it's really hard to pass the tests right now, but because of some reason, people are just flunking these tests. And so I just wanted to talk about these things a little bit with more detail, because the concern is that, as LNI interpreters, we shouldn't have to be, concerned with continuing education requirements, and some people don't like the fact that DSHS has this code of ethics and it doesn't belong in the LNI system, and so everything is being jumbled up. Some people are going so far as to say that we shouldn't be certified by DSHS because we are in a different system. And so, you know, I understand all of these concerns. Now we have to go back to the basics, back to the law. So, what is it that the law says about these things? Everything works by laws. And so, if you're going to challenge DSHS authority or the ability from DSHS to actually, affect change in the LNI system, we have to go to the laws. So, let's go to the laws right here. And I'm going to go right here. To the Revised Code of Washington, okay, and I'm gonna address the first, the first concern. Do LNI interpreters have to abide by the DSHS Code of Ethics? Okay, so let's just read this a little bit right here. This is the Revised Code of Washington: bilingual services for non-English speaking applicants and recipients, bilingual personnel, primary language pamphlets, and written materials. So let's go to section 4 right here. I'm gonna shade it blue a little bit so you see this, okay? It says the department shall certify, authorize, and qualify language access providers as needed to maintain an adequate pool of providers such that residents can access state services. So the department certifies these interpreters. And if you don't believe that, DSHS has the authority to certify interpreters for the LNI system, so what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go a little below this to point number 8. 8 right here, section 8. So you see that the department certifies language access providers. So a language access provider, it says right here, means any independent contractor like you and me who provides spoken language interpreter services for state agencies, injured worker, or crime victim appointments through the Department of Labor and Industries or Medicaid appointments, or provided these services on or January 1st, 2009, so on, so on, so on. So there you have it. If you are a language access provider and you interpret for LNI, okay, you are considered a language access provider if you're an interpreter, a subcontractor with LNI. So it says right here in point number 4, the department or DSHS shall certify, authorize, and qualify language access providers. So enough said with that. That answers that question. DSHS is the entity by law. This is the Revised Code of Washington that establishes, and certifies interpreters, regulates everything. DSHS certifies medical and social interpreters. So one thing is that in the LNI system, you're not necessarily required to be a medical interpreter. You could have just a social services certification, and then you could, boom, get your provider number. And even though that's a good thing because that gives the opportunity to many interpreters to be a provider with LNI, the other hand, you have to see the potential problems with that. Many interpreters that are just social services interpreters are not very qualified to provide medical terminology. And so you still have to go and interpret to pain management programs. You still have to do physical therapy evaluations. You still have to talk to a psychologist that you're gonna interpret for a patient that visits a psychologist and all that. When you go to a pain management program and they talk about drugs and biology and the back and discs and vertebrae and all that, if you're not a medical interpreter, and worse yet, if you do not have continuing education credits or you don't care about it, this is when you have these scenarios when you go to a pain management program and you see an interpreter that's supposed to be speaking simultaneously and they're like this. Yes. So let's not pretend that doesn't happen because it happens a lot. So friends, I know this is very concerning, but we have to also recognize that we don't have a perfect system, but let's not sit here and expect that, LNI is going to be different from DSHS. LNI doesn't have a different code of ethics. they adhere to this code of ethics. DSHS is the entity that certifies medical and social services interpreters. And so that's not changing anytime soon. In fact, this is why these rules are being enforced. So people actually, pay attention to the certification process. Let me tell you, many professions, have continuing education requirements. It's actually very necessary for you to remain relevant. Doctors have to remain relevant, learn new procedures. Massage therapists have to pay pretty much almost $500 for continuing education requirements and all that to maintain their certification. So this is to make us better. Is it perfect? No, but this is to make us better. So the second issue with that is, let's go to administrative Washington Administrative Code right here. Many people say, but Juan, what about the nationally certified interpreters? They didn't get their certification here in Washington, and Illinois still lets them be providers. Yes, they could be providers, but you know what? What does it say right here? This is the law. Can I provide language services to the DSHS without taking a department examination? Right? That's really good. So I'm gonna read to you point number 2 right here. It says if you're certified, as an interpreter by either the Certification Commission for Healthcare Interpreters, CCHI, or the National Board of Certification for the Medical Interpreters, the department will recognize you as a medical interpreter without requiring you to take its medical interpretation examination. That's good right now, right? However, you must formally submit a written request for recognition, a photocopy of your valid official certificate, and the copy of official record attesting to your completion of the required minimum DSHS, orientation, and ethics training, okay? And when you're done with all of that, even if you want to apply to be recognized as a social services interpreter from other state, you have to complete that process. You have to get that letter, okay? And when you're done with all of that, it says right here, your request must be submitted to LTC. LTC will evaluate language testing and certification, will evaluate all requests on a case-by-case basis. If LTC determines that your certification meets DSHS certification requirements, a recognition letter right here will be issued to you, which you will submit with your written request and a copy of your valid official certificate and a copy of official record attesting to your completion of the required minimum DSHS, translator orientation, and professional ethics trainings to the entity you contract with for language services. So what does that mean? If you are a nationally certified medical interpreter, you have to request DSHS for a recognition letter to validate that. And then when you get that, you should then apply for a provider number with LNI. But what's happening right now is that you have many nationally certified interpreters that are medical interpreters, and they don't have these recognition letters. LNI wasn't requiring this. Well, guess what? This is about to change because we have to have control. We have to have quality control. And so what LNI is doing, working with DSHS, is a partnership. It's not a bad thing. We were advised of these continuing education credits from a long time ago. And so it is time that we, take a little more responsibility, because I know it's frustrating. Sometimes we were not informed and all that, but these are the rules and they're there for a reason, okay? So another thing is that, many interpreters are like, well, I didn't receive an email from DSHS. I didn't receive a letter from DSHS. How is that fair? Well, I could see that point as well. If I didn't get an email, I didn't get one. You know what I mean? I found out actually in 2015 from an email from Notice and Universal Language Service that I used to contract with them. And they sent me an email like, you have to complete your continuing education credits. And so, but let me read to you DSHS responsibility when it comes to letting you know of things. Do they have to email you? Unfortunately, no. It says right here, what is the responsibility of the language testing and certification section in certifying and authorizing interpreters, translators, employees, and licensed providers? I think that's what it stands for, okay? So language testing and certification is the section within DSHS responsible for establishing and publishing, right here, publishing systems, methods, and procedures for certifying, screening, and/or evaluating the interpretation and/or translation skills of employees, LEPL, interpreters, and translators who work with the department clients, employees, and service providers. Okay, and they have to maintain the online interpreter database for public access. And they also have to, right here, coordinating and managing pre-certification authorization training requirements, post-certification authorization continuing education requirements, and coordinating the decertification process for interpreters, translators. Those that violate the rules so grossly will lose their license as well. So as you see right here, there is nothing here that says that they have to email you or send you a letter letting you know that changes are going to be done. I know it sucks. I know it's not probably ideal, but we have to understand that they're going to operate within the confines of the law. And the law says they only have to establish and publish systems, methods, and procedures for certifying, screening, and all of the above, or below in this case. So they don't have to email you, I think. It's your responsibility, actually, my responsibility as an interpreter as well, by the Code of Ethics, now that you understand that DSHS has authority, above all medical and social interpreters, and that includes the LNI system, as we read it there, the Code of Ethics, says right here, you know what I mean? Right here, professional development, and this is, again, Washington Administrative Code. It's right here, the number. It says right here, interpreters, translators are expected to continually develop their skills and knowledge through professional interpreter translating training, continuing education, and regular interaction with colleagues and specialists in related fields. So, yeah, it's pretty clear. There's no way around it. They threw all that responsibility on interpreters. They will provide this, and they have always been providing interpreting training materials and interpreting training workshops, and they post it on their website. Since 2012, they have been doing this. And so, this was a long time coming. Many interpreters knew about this, but you well know that many of us, many interpreters in the LNI system that do this for a living, sometimes we think that, it's a separate system. We don't have to worry about that. I'll still be a provider. Well, now you're finding out that that's not the case. Everything's supposed to be working together. Now LNI is working together with DSHS to ensure that interpreters are certified. Why is this happening? You may think. Well, let's be real. We LNI interpreters are very good, and we help the patients so much. But we have also some bad apples in the LNI system. You have interpreters that interpret without a certification, and then they have their family member who is certified billing for services. Don't pretend that doesn't happen. It does happen, okay? You have interpreters, forcing the patients to let them be their interpreter or else. You have many gross violations, many intimidation, many tactics. And listen, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm just, telling you what happens in the system. If you don't do it, good on you, but it does happen. And so they have to have some quality control. This has been happening for a long time, okay? So, keep working. How do you keep working until after April 6th? You know what I mean? Let's go right here to the language testing and certification program. And so they have a temporary reinstatement. And I know that many of you have read this, but for those that haven't, I just wanted to read it for you right here. For interpreters and translators, if you have not met all the requirements and your credentials are due to expire on or before June 29th, 2019, why does it say that? Because they extended it. They understand that more than half of the interpreters in the state of Washington will lose their certification by April 6th, so they extended this deadline. It says you can follow the steps below to ask LTC to reinstate your credentials until June 30th, 2019. Okay, it says during that time you may continue working based on your previous credentials. However, you will need to retest and to become certified or authorized again, as specified in, once again, Washington Administrative Code, and there's the number right there, 3880311, to qualify for work after the expiration date. So you won't have more time to do the continuing education credits. You will lose your certification, but they'll let you work until you retest. Now, many people are saying, but it's really hard, like I've tried to, apply for the test. There's no slots available. Well, keep on trying because your future depends on this. And then many interpreters are saying, well, some interpreters, I'm not going to say many, but some interpreters have told me, well, Juan, I didn't pass the test again. And some interpreters are complaining like, oh, we're veteran interpreters and we can't pass the test. And I have to say to you, it's unfortunate. There are many reasons why somebody cannot pass that test. But I'll tell you this, it's been the same test since I took it back in 2008, both of them. It's the same test. It has 7 variations, okay? So you will never find the same structure of the test, but it's the same information. It doesn't change. They don't have the resources to upgrade. They still use the same tape recorders from years ago to do the oral test. They don't have a lot of budget for this. So that means it hasn't changed that much. It's the same written, multiple selection test, the same oral consecutive and simultaneous interpretation test. And if you haven't passed it, you have to do some soul searching and say, what have I done wrong? Have I upgraded myself? Have I taken continuing education credits? Have I taken more courses? Have I become better? And, if you have, then keep on trying because you will pass it. But if you haven't, it's time to actually, do some, interior thinking and be like, I need to become better. Because many LNI interpreters, as great as we are, many of us, what do? We avoid going to the doctor's office. We're very comfortable going to a physical therapy appointment where the skill level is still, high, but you're not required to talk as much. We like to go to work hardening a lot. Work hardening appointments, work conditioning appointments, and we only talk through the initial evaluation a little bit, but then, we have to let the patient do their thing. You know what I mean? And we seldom talk. It is the reality of it. Many interpreters are very comfortable in these settings, and so they don't seek the upgrading of their skills. You know what I mean? And I'm not pointing fingers on anybody. I'm not pointing fingers. What I'm saying is it is a reality. And so we have to face this new reality. We have to get these continuing education credits. We have to become better because patients are the most important thing that we do. We serve them. And we have to be efficient. We can't go to a pain management program and not say anything when somebody's speaking. That is just shameful. We can go to a work hardening on a Friday when they're having a lecture, about something and you have to interpret simultaneously and we don't say anything to the patients. And some patients do know some English and they're like, what's going on right here? So we have to face this reality and understand that these continuing education benefits the continuing education requirements are here to stay, and we must, be responsible. Now, there is a form right here that says temporary credential reinstatement form. It's right here, okay? And so I'm going to be providing links to all of this, on the description box. And this is going to be posted on Facebook as well. But if you see this temporary credential reinstatement, it says my DSHS credentials will expire before June 30th, 2019. I request a temporary credential reinstatement valid through June 29th, 2019. And so you fill out this form, okay? And then you have to scan or take a picture of it and email it to this email address right here, dshsct@dshs.wa.gov. And so that's pretty much it. Oh, there's one more thing that I wanted to actually, share with you. Let's not become discouraged with this, okay? We have to understand that things are changing, but we cannot operate based on fear. I had the opportunity, to be certified, authorized by DSHS to provide continuing education workshops. And I do have an LNI billing workshop that I share with interpreters. It's worth 2 continuing education credits. I don't charge any money. I know that Notice and some other entities charge money, and that's okay because they're actually taking time and they're qualified to do this, so they should charge money for what they're doing. Fortunately, I have time right now. I'm not making a lot of money anyway, so I have time, and I have an interest of fellow interpreters having options that are free. And so, I wanted to, in that sense, talk to you about, what are we facing in the LNI system, okay? What are we facing in the LNI system? When we go to the LNI system, I want to talk to you real quick about the do's and don'ts. This is the code of conduct that LNI tells you have to abide by. And so those that tell me, we don't have to abide by the DSHS, code of conduct, code of ethics, I just prove to you that you have, okay? If you are an interpreter, a language access provider, you have to. But LNI, if you see, they don't call this section, LNI code of ethics. No, 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 because they know there's only one code of ethics. They call it do's and don'ts. And what do they tell you? You know what I mean? What you cannot do, you can market your services to workers or crime victims. That's kind of unfair because you have no way of getting your business out, but it is what it is. And you know that many interpreters, we have violated some of these things, one time or another, okay? You can't provide transportation to or from the doctor or vocational appointments. That's been happening. You can't require them to use your interpreter services exclusive of other approved LNI interpreters. Now, be real with yourself. How many interpreters do you see telling the patient, I have to be an interpreter? And God forbid that patient wants to go with some other interpreter, there's chaos. They sabotage the whole thing. They intimidate the patient and say, well, LNI will not pay for these services if you don't come to the appointment and I have to go there. Well, how many times you have a patient that can come to an appointment at a specific time and the interpreter says, well, I can't come at that time. Okay, so let's change it. And they tell you, the patient tells you, well, I have to pick up my daughter or do something else. And then the interpreter tells the patient, you have to be available because you don't work. If you don't cooperate, LNI will close your claim. So, why am I playing devil's advocate right here? Because I have lived this. I am an independent interpreter. I've worked with very good agencies and some not very good agencies. And now, from many years ago, I am an interpreter that's independent. I get my own work. Sometimes I work with some people here and there, but mostly my own work. And I see this on a daily basis. So let's not pretend that doesn't happen. And there is a reason why these things are here on the LNI website. They posted it there because for years they know these things happen because people complain about it. Providers complain, interpreters complain, patients complain. It says right here, you can't bill for someone else's services with your individual, not language agency group provider account number. Okay, so, it's a plethora of things. It says right here, do not help the client make any decisions. They must make their own decisions. It says right here, you must not discuss, counsel, refer, advise, or give personal opinions or reactions to any party. Now, do we help the patient so much? Yes, we do. You're not supposed to fill out a paperwork form, an intake form, but guess what? Why? Because we're not translators. LNI requests translating services. But the provider expects you to help this patient that doesn't even speak Spanish sometimes, cannot read or write Spanish, and much less English. Okay, so we have to do this. And we're sort of a patient navigator for the patient. So if there is room for this to change, yes, there is room for this to change. If there is room for this to be better, yes, if there is a chance that we could do it now, yes, we could do these things, and I want to share with you, I want to show you real quick. This is part of the, this is actually the ethics workshop that I'm approved from DSHS, and it's called Ethical Behavior in the LNI System. It's right there by me, and I speak about all of these things, and actually very nice people from the LNI department helped me, and gave me some input, and so it's not just my idea, this was approved by DSHS, and one of the things that I talk about is the code of ethics in the LNI system, and then if you see right here, there is a point that I called LNI interpreter or patient navigator, the dilemma, because we do have a dilemma. We want to help the patient and we don't want to violate this code of ethics. LNI knows that even the do's and don'ts they have in their page, could be challenging. And so they know this and they're willing to work. So when we have a union, this is something that we could negotiate, discuss, so our role could be interpreted in a better way, so we could have a HIPAA form signed or something from patients, but because we do so much for the patients, but at the same time we cannot be blind to the rules. Okay, last but not least, okay, so I'm gonna show you right here something that I posted back in the day last year. By July, I made a presentation about union organizing on June last year, and I talked about all these points. And one thing that I said about the benefits of having our own local union, it's right here. You know what I mean? It's the main benefits of having our own local union. LNI will be required by law to negotiate with interpreters. We can improve the system by being represented and united, implement health benefits, pay for no shows. But see, one of the things is, we can be able to redefine our role as interpreters to be considered navigators, because that's what we do. A patient navigator is somebody that helps a patient to overcome obstacles so they could get the care that they need. All of these things, I have been talking about this. The people, united in our effort to have this union. They talk about these things. Whoopsie is doing an excellent job actually reaching out to interpreters. We're very close to our goal. And so these are some of the things that we want LNI to actually change, to eliminate that 8-hour limit, negotiate timeline for LNI to take back pay. They take back pay. There are many things that we could, if we're organized, to actually negotiate. We may not get everything, but we could get a lot of things, obtain respect when dealing with our billing increase and all that. So I don't want to get too much into this, but I just wanted to let you know I'm going to be posting dates for the workshops. You're getting emails from Whoopsie directly about the workshops. I invite you to come to the workshops. They're free. With the ethics workshop, this one right here, you get 1 continuing education credit and 1 ethics credit. Okay, for only 2 hours. You don't have to lose your whole Saturday to get 1 ethics credit. Okay, and with the LNI billing workshop, it's this one right here, this one. And I just wanted to show you real quick so you see. Okay, I have a section for questions and answers and all that, and it's boom right here. I had to make my own slides, but LNI actually assisted me in this process as well. And so continuing education is not a bad thing. Our scope of practice, has to be within the limitations of DSHS. As much as it pains us to understand that we have to abide by that code of ethics, we have to. LNI recognizes that, and so it would be wise for us to embrace this continuing education process. And like I said, I will be leaving links there. Don't panic. The state recognizes that many interpreters didn't know, but my final advice to you, to all of us, is let's not make excuses. This is our responsibility. Continuing education is a good thing. Many careers have it. If we want to be respected and we want to be treated with professionalism and people understand that we're professionals, we have to not only act accordingly, but we have to be educated as such. And we have to keep on getting better in the continuing education process, make sure that we're better. The state doesn't charge you for this. Some other companies charge you for the workshops, but the state doesn't charge you for continuing education credits. And there are many people like Whoopsie, I myself have become certified to do this. We do it for free. So thank you for paying attention to this video. I hope that, this is actually shedding some light on the subject. I hope that, this was informational. It was not my intention to make this super long or whatever, but here we are. So thank you so much for paying attention to this. God bless you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I'll see you later, and please look at the links at the description box. And if you're looking at this video from Facebook, please look at all the links that you need to get up to date with the continuing education process. God bless.